All right, let's get going. So what I'm going to be building out today is an appointment reminder agent, and we're going to be building this out from scratch. In our previous video, we had Twilio and SMS reminders configured. Today, we're going to be configuring the Google Calendar part of this automation. Everything else I've already gone through in the previous video. The only other thing that we haven't gone through is Retell. So before we configured 11 labs, today we're going to configure Retell. This will be the part 1 of this series, and we're just going to keep building off this. After this, I'll show you guys how to build a 3 touch point system that calls people, that makes outbound calls, and can also take inbound calls with dynamic variables. And what that means is dynamic variable means that it's going to be able to determine this person's name, phone number. If someone calls in, it'll have the ability to determine this person's name based on a CRM, yada, yada. The reason I'm going through this, the Google Calendar side of things, is because I remember when I first started, it was very difficult to figure out what was going on with Google Calendar or just configuring Google within itself. I think it might have gotten easier, or it should have gotten easier, but I'm just going to go through it anyway. I do understand the premise of what people say, that you don't necessarily need to learn how to use no-code tools like N8N and stuff like that, because you could kind of just prompt ChatGPT, or you could prompt Cursor to build them out for you. And theoretically, that's a phenomenal idea, and it works. However, practically, it's a little bit different if you're doing it for the sake of putting it out for businesses, because you need to understand the logic and you need to understand the fundamental structure of what you actually built out. So if something breaks, you know exactly where it is. You at least have an idea of what broke and how to fix it and configure it. So what we're going to start with is configuring our Google Calendar. So let's have a look. So I actually just got this workflow off the N8N website. And what I did was I just added the fallback for SMS. So if the call failed, send an SMS, and if the call failed, send an SMS, and if the call didn't go through, also send an SMS. Ideally, this would be pretty great for any business that works through appointments and wants to decrease the amount of no-shows. However, I will also just give you guys a heads up, cow.com can do this now too. However, some businesses, like if you want to do this for a dentistry, maybe they don't want to use cow.com. Maybe they already have a calendar element that they already use. And I guess it's a good way for us to kind of build these things out systematically. As we go step by step, you kind of start to understand the logic. So the first one is the schedule trigger. Okay, so what this means is it's going to be triggered every single day at 9 a.m. Okay, you can change this 9 a.m., 10 a.m., whatever. You can put it every 15 minutes, blah, 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 months. And if you want a custom, you can go through custom as well. I usually do set a custom one because there's some parameters, especially when it comes to outbound calling, that you kind of want to be conscious of, such as you don't want to be calling people way too far outside of work hours. So after 8 p.m., 9 p.m., yada, yada, I would try and eliminate that. Then what this is going to do, it's going to retrieve events through the calendar. So it's going to retrieve the calendar booking. It's going to extract the appointment details from there. It's going to configure the retail details. So what this does, it extracts the information that is required for retail That is the whole point of this particular node. It's the edit fields node. So what you do is if you go through edit field, set, modify, blah, blah, blah. And ideally what this does is the exact same thing as this. The only thing is what you would do is if you're building this out from scratch, name, that would be the name of the field, which would be the from number, agent ID, string, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. Reason, start time, end time, formatted time. Okay. And you just go through that and you just set them up. Okay. Just go through that, finish, add another one, finish, add another field, finish, add another field. All right. That is the manual mapping field. This is an HTTP request configured specifically for retail. And if you want to get the information for this type of stuff, what you can do is you can go to the Retell AI documentation. Which are probably, and any information that you would ideally need for setting up retail is on this website, and you can kind of just go through them step by step. All right. So if you want to make a call, what we would do is, where does this say? It says create phone call. So we'd create a phone call, Yeah, sorry. Create phone call. So you need your Retell API key. I'll show you guys where to get that. So let us open Retell. Cool. So your API key, what you do is if you want to get your API key, you go API keys, and you would add key, API key, and you go, let's create YouTube demo. I'll go create. I will delete these after I create this, and we'll copy this. We'll copy that demo, and you go generic, credential type is generic, head authorization. I've got this preset. So we're going to configure the HTTP request for the Retell. So what that would tell you is you're going to need your API key, from number to number, and your call ID. No, sorry, you need your agent ID. Once you need it, you get the agent ID, and the format is bearer, your API key. So when you go in here, you'll go add parameter authorization, and then authorization, you go bearer, space. Oh, no. Bearer, and you copy this, copy, and space here. You don't necessarily have to use this. What I have this as is exactly the same as what I would have it as Retell. So you can just copy Retell, and you just go authorization value, or I just tend to use the 11 labs one because it kind of Retell piggybacks off 11 labs, and because I've already configured 11 labs, it already works. Okay. So, and that should be it. So we need to make sure we go through all of them. So which we will. I already showed you guys how to go through your Twilio, how to configure your Twilio. So you just go through your Twilio account, yada, yada. Now we're just going to test this and see if it works. And I don't think it is. Let's see, let's have a look. Box accessing node. All right, cool. So what we'll do, we'll go to Google. Let's go to Google console. Oh, let's use this one instead. Cool. Well, I'm just gonna set this up as fresh from the very, very beginning. So what you'll do is, if you don't have a project in here, just create a new project. Create a new project. Let's name this YouTube demo. Right? And to name this YouTube demo, you go to APIs and services. Okay. Create project. But we already did that, so something is wrong. So we'll click this. That's where we go. All right. So you got all these. You got create credentials. Okay. So you're going to need these credentials. So what we're going to do is we're going to create one. It is a lot more intuitive in comparison to what it was before, where you had to kind of get all this started. YTB. And then we'll go external. Okay. But the thing is, only you will be able to, only people with the link or people you give access to would be able to use this project. So it is important. I'm walking you guys through this because this is something that racked my brain when I first started. Like, it took so much longer than it needed. Okay. And then let's go create authorization client. Once you get authorization, you go web application, web client, N8N. We go N8N, YouTube demo. Okay. Now this one is where you need to add this, right? So we'll go here. We will go here. We'll create new credential. To copy this callback and we'll take it through here and you'll enter it in here. Okay, create. Okay, and there's your client secret that I did not copy. Let's hopefully, it's client ID. Yep, cool. And that now this is not going to work. Okay. Or maybe it might actually work. Let's try it first. Let's see what happens. Sign in. And over here. Oh, it worked. Cool. Sorry. That actually worked. However, it's not going to be properly configured, right? So yes, it has connected. It has connected. However, okay, it is important to realize that you need to add Google Calendar access. So we'll go Google Calendar. Google Calendar API. Cool. And then we'll go enable. Now, once you go enable, you'll go credentials and those credentials here. All right. There's something else that we need to do. Don't. All right. So after that, right? So we've already created a client ID. So N8N can now talk to the Google Cloud Console, right? However, what you'll find is you haven't actually given Google the go ahead to send specific data sets to N8N, right? So we'll go calendar, Google Calendar APIs. Just have a read through these and then can see edit, change, see download calendar. Go view and edit events on your calendar. And see, create, change, delete events on your calendars that you own. Yep. And yes, so we've got update. Okay. So those are the scopes that you've given and access to. Every single time that you want to configure a new Google service or anything that's connected to the Google Cloud or Google ecosystem, you need to go through the system, the sequence, and configure the steps. Okay. Cool. So there's a couple of ways that you can do this, right? So we've gotten to this point here. What we're going to do is we're going to, you could go by calendar ID. That was the expression that we had in here before that I erased. However, easiest way is once all of that is configured, you just go from list and you just select the calendar. Okay. And once you select the calendar, it should just be able to execute. Cool. There you go. All right. Which is pretty cool. All right. So that is what you need. Now, let's actually go into the Google Calendar and add a Google Calendar event. Okay. So the Google Calendar node is active. Now let's see if we extract some details, what's going to come out? What do we have? We have customer appointment reason. So there's a couple things that you can do. You could actually just add one, or you could add some test data in the Google Calendar, which is cool. I usually do that at the very, very end. I like to make sure that all the data is actually properly functional first, or the workflows are properly functional. So I'll enter this one, 61404257175. Save. Email. Let's just audit this. So, Bill. Cool. Pin. And Bill. Appointment. Formatted time. Yada, yada, yada. Doesn't matter. All made up anyway. Okay. This is what we need to make sure actually works properly. So let's call that. Beautiful. And let's see, have all these values been called correctly? Looks like they have. Let's give it a call. Data type. Create phone call, head, get, create V2 phone call. So, cool. So, sometimes I can't actually kind of just think through the error, so I just ask the question. So, wrong end URL point usually means that you're sending the data to the wrong URL. You do, so this one it's a get, but remember when we went back to create phone call, it says post, right? So if we switch this to post, which we'll go execute, and there you go. So that works correctly. And that should send out the phone call. Also, this should store the phone call ID. Call ID, beautiful, fantastic, awesomeness. Call initiated is true. Yep, beautiful, fantastic. And then it'll wait 2 minutes. And once it waits 2 minutes, actually, let's just, for the sake of this, we'll pause this. We'll stop it. We'll turn this off because we don't want to wait 2 minutes. We just want to cancel it, and we're going to go straight through. And let's see what we got here. So Cal, authorization, check your credentials. So the credentials are incorrect. Authorization header required. So you go here, just like we did before. Authorization, and we'll copy this one, bearer key. Beautiful. And we'll just copy that in here. I use Comet, by the way. I think it's a little bit easier to configure these and work through them if you use Comet. You can use ChatGPT or whatever you use, but I'm pretty sure Comet is free. So in this sort of situation, you can just ask the exact same thing as I did before. So what does this error mean? And we'll read it, and it will let you know what the error. Sometimes you could even get it to fix it for you. All right. So header name authorization with the value key. But remember, we didn't have the bearer key before. I just entered that on there. So let's see how we go with that one. Cool. So that worked successfully. Call status not connected or dial failed. Okay, that's because we hang up straight away. So this node here will analyze the dial result. Okay. And if the customer answered false, customer answered false, and because the person didn't answer, you just send them a message instead. It's like, "Hi Bill, we tried calling you about your appointment on Sunday, but we couldn't reach you. Please reply yes to confirm your appointment or call us back. Thanks." So there you go. Now let's switch and say that the customer did answer. We're just testing this out. We'll go true. Save. Oh, it's not a valid JSON. True. There you go. Save. So we'll execute this. True. Beautiful. For the sake of simplicity, we're going to stop this here. But what you can do is you can add more to this. So you can maybe go back into the Google Calendar and add a appointment confirmed node or appointment confirmed. This is just purely for the sake of simplicity. Okay. Now, as I've showed you guys before, I like to test these based on getting the workflow up and going first. And then I'll go back and do like manual testing. So like I'll actually enter the data onto the Google Calendar. And then once I enter the data on the Google Calendar, then I'll start tweaking and creating scenarios to test these separate workflows. Okay. So if this one, let's say that call initiated, let's modify this one. All right. I will switch this to false so we can test the other one. False. Oops. False. I will save and execute. And now it should go through the false branch. And then once it goes to the false branch, go execute that step. Okay, so we know this full workflow works now. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to test the Google Calendar data, all right? So we've entered one here. So it's like a test appointment, name, John Smith, email, johnsmith@example.com. That's my mobile number. Please don't call me. I'm probably going to have to blur this out. And kitchen sink repair, leaking faucet. All right. So that's the test appointment that we've created. Now, if we go through here, let's go execute step. And we'll go through extract appointment details. So let's just play this one. Cool. What have we got? Kitchen sink. All these other ones are just kind of like blank testers. Cool. And configuration empty. Yada yada, but we've got those other two. Cool. And then let's initiate the phone call. See what happens. Cool. Phone call. Message status, phone call not empty. Cool. So let's just test the retail. So because this is extracting ghost data, what we can do is we can totally erase this and put that there. Now we can remove this and remove this. And we can go save. And that is the data that we can use. And we go execute step, unpin and test. Cool. So that is the data from here, the test appointment. So we're just going to execute this step and it should make the phone call, and that's the phone call going through. Or here it is. There we go. Phone call's gone through. And then we'll save. And it will process through there. Goes through there. Initiated. Call initiated. Let's unpin this data here because the call was initiated. Execute step. Execute step. And execute step. So I didn't pick up the phone call. Because I didn't pick up the phone call, it is going. Let's unpin this. Let's play that. It does say ongoing, but remember this would generally wait about 2 minutes before it gets going. So it says customer answered, it says false, but because it says ongoing, it'll go through fallback. Okay. And there you go. In the next video, I will show you guys how to get your retail agent working and configured. So this is conditional appointment reminder. Has a wait node to wait and check the status of the call. It's going to check the status of the call. And then if the phone call didn't go through or something happened, has to have a fallback SMS.